I didn't think he had. Not that one, the other one. Well, now your head. There you go. There we go.
I like the new stage.
We're not using it though.
Oh, I know. That's
Are you doing the spotlight today?
Yes, I'm actually going to try to recruit Dr. Calhoun because it's been a while.
He's in Texas College.
Would you mind making your first announcement? Can you let members know that I'm accepting and if they want to make their payment by credit card, and I'll just stand back there. One of the people in my office is sick today, so by 12:45 I have to bounce. And as soon as I'm done with her today, I have to go back.
Yes. Sorry.
And I've gotten to know the numbers. There's about 4 or 5 different numbers, you know? And it's like, yeah, 561, blah, blah, blah. I know it's going to be something. Like, so we had to sedate his mother. I said, what? I said, and she's trying to escape again because she'll go to the door and sit there and bang on it. One day she took all of her stuff and put it in her wheelchair and walked herself to the door and just sit there and bang on it. So they said no, but she went into the room, took all her clothes off, she got in her chair, and scooted herself down the hall. Except she had shoes. And then they tried to get her to go to bed, to go lay down, and she wasn't having it.
Okay, so I don't know how John just sent this over, so I don't know why it's set up the way that it is, where it's all over the place. I'll fix
In
it.
my opinion, it needed, yeah, I think he's just trying to be consistent with past years and such.
Though it looks like we've had 427.
I picked up, there's 350, or 500, my personal 100 is in there now too.
All right.
Mr. President, you give me 2 minutes?
Yep, I got you on the list.
Are you wearing your Rotary?
Not today. Am I the?
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, you understand.
Am I the one today?
Huh?
Am I the one today?
It's a surprise.
Okay.
What can I say? It's a surprise.
Okay. Well, while you're
Who's
here,
speaking today? Manager, water utilities. Was that the lady that bought the box?
No. This from the Bible cleanup the other day.
Right.
Hi, how are you? All right.
Good afternoon. Jeff Johnson, will you lead us in our invocation, please?
Thank you for being a Rotary today. Thank you, yes, please. Thank you, Father, for the time that we've come together. Thank you for the opportunity to serve together in this government. Thank you for all the blessings you've given us. Let's be mindful of all those around us and the opportunity to serve, especially as we go this week or time of giving tomorrow. Bless the food and rest of our lives, yes, for your service. And we pray. Amen.
And we don't have the flags sitting here, so don't we face the courthouse? All right, face the courthouse. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Courtney, will you introduce our guests, please?
Yes, ma'am. We have two guests today. One is Ashley Coleman, a man spoke about her bus reach because my former boss, but she works for Mr. Lake. She has applied for our group. But if you can sign up as a volunteer, she has her shirt for the golf tournament. So y'all see her. And we brought guests, Garrett, also Kelly, appreciate him for bringing us. Yes.
Thank you, Courtney. And Beth is going to give us a quick spaghetti stuff update from the back of the room, so maybe you turn around.
The reason from the back is we do have our square for South Child Rotary Foundation. So if you have a credit card with you and you want to make your personal spaghetti summer donation today, you can do that for a little bit. So if you really want to buy this step back here, I can get that thing taken care of. We've already taken in $1,300 today, so that's great momentum. We made a lot of progress with working with the nonprofits, getting press releases, the media is really on board, so you're going to hear some more great things. On your tables, on some of the tables, is I printed out some of the letters and the invoices. That's what you can use to approach potential sponsors and get other people's money, because we like other people's money. And if you need more copies of that invoice or letter, it is on our South Rotary webpage, or you can text or email me and ask them, and I will give them to you. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Beth. If you would give the microphone to Bill Coates for our sports moment.
Thank you, Beth. Kind of an interesting story that happened over the weekend. Richard, I'm just talking about him. Got any later there? Really? Their basketball coach, Ken Baltimore, their basketball coach, been there for 21 years, won 3 national titles, and basically retired the trophy in the Big 12 for winning every year. Over the weekend, she, after all those years, decided to go to LSU. That's her home state. I mean, I kind of get it. But why now? I have a theory about that. Their men just won the national championship. She's not the biggest show in town anymore, and I kind of think she. What do you think? You're no way to that. Am I right about that? I'm bored. Okay, all right. I mean, I had no, I'm not on the side of the paper, man, it stretches the imagination. I just found the timing interesting. 3 weeks after the event, won the national championship, she's out the door. You go to LSU, wind down, 2 decades. She is Baylor women's basketball with the program. Nothing. Anyway, I found that to be a very interesting story, proving that there is no loyalty among in the coaching fraternity. They preach their kids, team, and then they'll vote at the drop of a hat, which the NCAA is moving more and more toward letting these kids pretty much go wherever the heck they want to go, when they want to go. It's moving in that direction. Once upon a time, they took an act of Congress for a kid to transfer from one school to the other. Less so now, there's a transfer portal that the NCAA has now that has, I think, 2,000 or 3,000 names kids looking to transfer. The rest of the students can. You know, if I go to the University of Texas and I decide I want to go to A&M, all I got to do is pick up and go. Why not the players? So it's kind of an interesting transition going on. And the coaches, while they preach team, they don't always practice. I mean, she recruited all these kids and now she's falling off to go take an LSU job. I don't know, I have a little problem with that. There's one more home football game for TJC Saturday against New Mexico Military. Who do I think?
Johnny. And I'm going to call Johnny Ortiz up to do our member spotlight. And who is our lucky winner this week?
Miss Diane Kevin, our lucky contestant this morning, this afternoon, is sitting at the very last table to my right, to your left, is Mr. Dr. Ray McDonald, if you would come on down.
He's like, what?
I was just talking to Dr. Ray when I asked him to be part of the member spotlight about how awesome it is to be able to come and not just get to know one another, but also network and help one another out. So we're going to make this really simple, just a really easy Q&A, question and answer. You ask all the questions, I provide the answers. No, I'm just kidding, it's the other way around. But we really want to get to know a little bit about you. We've got a lot of members and some of them are watching online. And so we're going to be able to have an opportunity to get to know a little bit more about exactly who Dr. Ray McDonald is. So I'd really like to start off with just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Okay. I'm Ray McDonald, and I'm a professor of social work at Texas College. I do have a doctorate and PhD. And I'm the father of Raciel McDonald, who is one of the past presidents of the Rotary Club in Marshall, Texas. And she also works with the district government. What else going on?
Family?
Oh, that's my family.
Okay, and as when you just talked a little bit about working out at Texas College, what do you like about that? And exactly how many people were you able to help over there?
Well, I teach social work, and at this time I'm working on the social work program being accredited by the Council of Social Work and Education. We're in the first phase of it. We've met up the requirements for the free candidacy workshops, which I'm attending on a monthly basis. What I like about this school is that I'm able to work with students who have difficulties with getting jobs and training and understanding what human behavior is about. Also, I like working with them to help them matriculate into society as constructive individuals, and also to succeed and excel and go to get their masters and hopefully on to get their doctorate.
Fantastic. That's definitely a unique dynamic to be able to do all of that. Let's talk about, well, the next one is talking about recreation or hobbies. I like to call it fun, because who doesn't like to have a little bit of fun? But Dr. Ray McDonald, what do you do for fun, for recreation, to get out and just unwind?
I like to cook.
Oh, yeah.
I like to bowl. I like to write. Oh, matter of fact, I didn't say that I've written 2 books. One on the aging process, and another one on working with Alzheimer's and understanding. So I like doing that. I like working with people. I like going to church and enjoying the festivities of it, and like helping others in the community. Like I was helping distribute PPEs during the major crisis of COVID. And I like to just helping out as much as I can wherever I can.
Does that not sound like a Rotarian or what? I want to dive in a little bit, because I love authors, and just get into the personal here, but the book you talked about, the aging process, or you said reversing the aging process. Not that anybody here would care to know, but what is one of the most unique things you found out when writing that book?
I found that a lot of the ailments and issues that aging individuals have, and I don't like to use the term aging because it's a connotation that you're old, and I don't like using that word old, I like mature. And so we get more and more mature as we grow mature. What I like about it is that I learned that, and it's in the book, that a lot of the things that we call ailments and run to the doctor is part of the process of aging. And there's things we can do to take care of ourselves. And there's a lot of myths out there about aging individuals. Scared to go out, scared to be around people, don't like going out, don't like doing things, but that's not it. They like going out, they like socializing. These are just different type of things, and there's another one, I'm not going to talk about that one, but that's a bit too. And all I want to say is, they say older people can't move around and everything, and I said, that's a myth. Older people move around, I'm at that age, okay, I'll be 73 next month. So aging individuals, we still move. We just don't move as fast as we used to. So I hope y'all got the grip. We still do things, but not the way we used to do it, or as fast as we used to do it. But we do.
Yeah, one of my favorite books is The Tortoise and the Hare.
Yeah.
Moving slow, but you still
It's not to get there.
every time I read that book, it's the same pretty neat. All right, and what motivates you? This might overlap into a little bit about what you did, what you talked about earlier, but what really motivates you and gets you going?
To see the need in the community and be able to be in a position where I can help supply some of those needs and help people to understand that they can make it when they feel down and out and that they can't do it. I always let them know, because I'm a Christian, I always let them know that God is things happen to us, not just for a reason, but to build us and to help us to move to the next level in our spirituality.
Yeah, absolutely. Romans 8:28. If you don't know it, that's your homework assignment for the week, right? All things work together for good. So let me ask you this, and the last question I'm going to ask, so we can go on to the next one. But Rotary. Why Rotary? What do you really like most about Rotary, and how have you benefited from it, or vice versa?
Well, I benefit from Rotary because it opens and broadens up understanding of what all we can do and why we do it. I understand also about Polio Plus. And I was saying earlier that that's my baby. I love Polio Plus because I'm not a polio child, but I was in that era when polio was prevalent. And I had people around me that had it. And so one day at one of our conferences, a lady came, I can't remember her name, what's the name out there? And she told us about how she had polio and how it's still affecting her. But I mean, she brought tears to my eyes because I could identify with what she was saying. And ever since then, I'm always giving to the foundation to Polio Plus.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Ray, for being with us.
It's always great to hear a little bit more about our members and learn more about their hobbies and their background. So we've got some announcements. I'm going to call a few folks up while I start the announcements. Jared, if you want to make your way up, Lee, Jeff Cummings, I think that's everybody. But if anybody else who needs to make an announcement today, please make your way on up. But as Courtney said when she introduced our guests, we do have a new member posting. Her first posting is Ashley Bowman. She's a regional director at American Health Services, and she is sponsored by David Lake. So welcome, Ashley. And Jeff, you want to talk about Taco Tuesday?
So our social networking event is going to come back live tomorrow at Tree Vine on Royal Hill Parkway. I've reached out to them to make sure that they would be aware that we're going to show up, and hopefully in the masses. And also, they usually have a taco truck there, and they're going to come earlier at 4 o'clock. So the event's going to come and go as you please, starting at 4 o'clock. 2 recommendations: come and ready for cold beer, And if you like Brussels sprouts, they probably have some of the best in town on the food truck. And the other thing is, bring somebody with you, because I mean, as this is a social networking for the Rotary, we also have a membership drive that we always want to share and network with people that are like-minded. So come out tomorrow at Tree Vine from 4 till whenever the cows come home and they want to shut us down. But 4 o'clock is whenever it starts. The food truck will be there, and we hope to see you then.
Great, I'm looking forward to it. And of course, tomorrow seems to be the day that everybody's trying to have a social event. My work's having a social event at 6. So I'm gonna be at Tree Line between 4 and 6, and I'm gonna go to the Stanley's for this barbecue. So, Jared, you wanna talk about the service awards?
Absolutely, thank you so much. We are officially accepting nominations for the end of the year awards. We have decided on 4 categories that we're looking for nominations for, and those categories are educator, first responder, healthcare worker, and community service or volunteer. So if you know somebody in the community that you would like to nominate for one of our end of the year awards, please take a moment to do that. And Diane, you can tell them how to do that. So.
In yesterday's bulletin, and we're going to send out an email just specifically related to this, there is some information about the award nominations, and there's a link, and it's a Google form, so you don't have to write anything on paper, you just type in the person's name, some contact information, and why you think that they should be considered for the award. So if you don't have yesterday's bulletin, you can always find it on the website. On the first column over here, about the third little section down is the bulletins, copies of bulletins. And then we'll get an email out that has just the link so you can start to run that out. Any questions about the award categories or how to fill out the application? Right. Lee. Come on down, you're the next contestant on.
Door number 1, please. Diane, stay right there.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad you turned around. Anyway, it's my pleasure to give a big thank you. I'm not the Rotary Foundation, but I got this little letter in the mail from the Rotary Foundation that says thank you to Diane Kavanaugh. I think one of the neat qualities about leaders, good leaders, are that they lead by example. And Diane donates monthly to the Rotary Foundation. And just like birthdays that come around once a year, she's had a Paul Harris sort of birthday. And she gets to upgrade her Paul Harris pin from a sapphire to a ruby.
Ooh.
Because, jewelry, huh? Yeah. She gets her first ruby for a Paul Harris plus 6. Extra.
Do you want to speak real quick about the matching points?
Matching points. Yes, I would love to speak about the matching points. And thank you for the folks that gave me checks today on behalf of, I'm not witty Tom DeWitt, but he will be very happy when he gets home. I have a couple of checks for the Rotary Foundation. Thank you, Nancy, Nan, and Jeff. And Dr. Ray gave me a promissory note for a significant donation as well.
Michael Hurley.
And Michael Hurley. Snuck in. Yay!
I'm not a Ruby yet.
Sir?
I'm not even close to a Ruby though.
One step at a time. One step at a time. Since the last report, I think somebody asked how much the club had given, and it was just a little over $190,000. We are now at $193,561. So we're up $3,000, not counting what came in today. So thank you all. And if you have a question, I've got your latest numbers if you'd like to know.
In lifetime.
Oh, and the life of the club. So we're closing in on a 200,000 mark. That's pretty cool.
Hey, we can do a challenge, and whoever makes it to the 200,000 gets a matching point or 2.
Yeah.
Come on, get out your checklist. So, we are asking you guys for a little bit of money right now, and I appreciate your tolerance and patience with it. It's Marcy's Texas Giving Day, so, there's lots of wonderful organizations out there that you can support as well. Spaghetti Supper, I want to revisit real quick. Beth has to leave around 12:45, so if you're interested in making a donation today to Spaghetti Supper, please see her in the back. She would love to take your credit card or a check from you. She set a pretty aggressive goal of $60,000 this year, and we're not having a typical year, and we're not seeing a lot of checks come in, so I just really want to encourage you guys. She talked about other people's money, but we would also like some of your money as well. Well, that's just kind of how it goes. She is challenging our members to do at least $100 a person. I challenge you to do a little bit more if you're able to do a little bit more. $60,000 for our group is a little bit less than $1,000 a person that we need to raise. But if you've not gone out there and solicited any donations, please look at doing that. And the letter that she put on the table starts at I think $1,000, but we raised $60,000 before off $100 donations. So think of your neighbor, the person who cuts your hair, your dentist, any of those folks, and just ask them for some money. Especially this year, since we're doing something really unique by serving the community instead of serving just people who buy the tickets. So please consider a donation for that. And again, the foundation, the Rotary Foundation, one of the reasons that we support that is because we are part of an international group and we should support the organization that we are part of. Yes, so
we'll have sponsorship and tickets.
No. We for those of you who are unfamiliar with our Spaghetti Supper, because we didn't have one last year, traditionally what happens is you sell a sponsorship for $100 and that person gets 10 tickets to attend the Spaghetti Supper. And then they show up here on the day that we're making the spaghetti and they get to either eat here or take it with them. But we're not doing that this year. We're still a little bit cognizant of social distancing and issues along those lines. So instead of us selling tickets, we are actually going to serve the food to local charities. We have Meals on Wheels lined up. They're going to come by in the morning and pick up all the meals for their route. And then we're going to be providing food through Salvation Army, Highway 80 Rescue Mission, and a couple of other organizations. So this year, more than ever, we need probably some more funding because that involves a little bit more food as well as some more supplies. So if you can do some fundraising, for those of you who've been around, reach out to the folks that you ask every year, get that $100 from GM Edwards, get that $100 from this person.
So it's getting smaller amounts than what's listed here still.
Yeah, it's fine. I know Bill Coach, you've gone out and have you encountered any resistance on any of the ones? A little bit. Yeah. Obviously, people like to do something because they might get something out of it. So we might just have to appeal to their heartstrings a little bit more. Okay, a couple other quick announcements so that we can start our program. In the bulletin, I mentioned the district training in Longview, and I sent out an email. If you're interested in attending the district training, that's this Saturday coming up. You need to register by Wednesday. It costs us $25. It includes lunch. And I will even carpool up to 5 other folks with me if you're interested in going. We're doing on May 8th, we're going to be working at one of the Path community homes doing some painting. And then the last announcement is, making certain I'm looking on the little things. May 22nd, the district is holding a fundraiser for Polio Plus in Gilmer, and all that information is on their website. Any other announcements from the floor before I turn it over to Art for our program? All right, seeing none, Art, come on.
Thanks. I'm going to take us back to high school days. No. For just a minute to see if you remember the poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, a rather long poem, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Right, Nancy? Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. It's got kind of a nice sound somehow. The most famous line in that whole poem is water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. Well, fortunately, here in Tyler, Texas, we certainly do not have that situation. Maybe a little bit back in February, but that's all gone now. And thanks to our speaker today, we have much good water here in Tyler. Kate Dietz, D-I-E-T-Z, Kate Dietz is manager of the city of Tyler Water Utilities. And as a registered professional engineer, she's got over 15 years experience working in water and wastewater industries. She's also, before that, she's got formal training leading up to that from Vanderbilt and the University of Texas at Austin, ending up with a master's degree in water resource engineering and another degree in chemical engineering. So she knows about water. 4 years now in her present position with the city of Tyler. She's married, got twin 4-year-old daughters at home, so she's got a lot going on, and she's got a lot to say to us today about this important topic of water. So, here's Kate. Welcome home.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I did put the power on. Okay.
Well, hi, everyone.
Thank you very much for that introduction. So today I'm here to talk about how you get your water. Hold on.
You have to point at the computer that's behind you, over there to the left.
Oh, right there. Yeah.
Maybe.
You're right. I'm going the wrong way. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so today, kind of a presentation outline. I'm going to give you kind of an introduction to water utilities, what it is we do overall.
Okay.
Oh, closer? Yeah. Oh. Yes, that's not okay. So, an introduction to water utilities, also our source water, where we get our water, and then how we treat it, the water that we treat, the distribution system, which is how it gets to your house. And then I have a slide on Winter Storm Uri, some frequently asked questions that I've had in the past, and then I'm going to open it up for any of your questions that you may have, because I'm sure you probably have. So Tyler Water Utilities has 5 main jobs. We manage the source water, we produce safe drinking water, we then distribute the safe drinking water. We also safely convey wastewater to the treatment plants, and then we treat the wastewater at the treatment plant and then release back into the environment. So it kind of completes a whole cycle there. So at Tyler Water Utilities, I have 3 main jobs. My first is manage operation and maintenance of Lake Tyler and Lake Tyler East. That includes the dams that create the lakes, the recreation areas, and up to like lease transfer paperwork, and because we have leaseholds out on Lake Tyler. And I also manage the production, about an average, depending on the day, about 30 million gallons per day of safe drinking water at 2 water treatment plants. And I also work in close partnership with the Water Service Center to distribute that safe drinking water through over 690 miles of distribution water lines to over 37,000 homes and residences, and almost, it's giving me a little, okay, and almost 3,500 businesses. So first, let's start off with the source water. Lake Tyler was constructed and owned, was constructed and is owned by the city of Tyler. It was constructed in 1948. The location is on Prairie Creek in the Nature's River Basin. It covers a surface area of about 2,400 acres. The average depth is about 17.6 feet. And then Lake Tyler East, which was finally built in 1967, and it was connected to Lake Tyler via an excavated channel in 1968. It's also owned by the city of Tyler. It's located on Mud Creek in the Nature's River Basin. It covers a surface area of 2,500 feet with an average depth of 16.5 feet. And it has a drainage area. I didn't talk about the drainage area in Lake Tyler, but that's 45 square miles. And in Lake Tyler East, it's 62 square miles. And when I say drainage area, that's the amount of land that when precipitation or any water hits the surface, it's going to eventually drain to that waterway. The average storage capacity of Lake Tyler and Lake Tyler East is 14 billion gallons, and we have 3 pumps at that raw water pump station. Each of those pumps can pump 12,500 gallons per minute each. So that's one of our source waters, is Lake Tyler. And from Lake Tyler, we pump it through those raw water pumps to Golden Road. So I wanted to align the source water and the water treatment plant so you would know which way to go. So as far as the Lake Tyler water is treated at Golden Road, that facility was originally constructed in 1951. There have been major upgrades completed to the facility in 1965, 1980, 2011, 2019, and then now. We're actually having a filter rehab done right now, as well as some chemical feed improvements. The current treatment capacity of Golden Road is 27 million gallons per day, and it utilizes conventional treatment technologies like coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation, filtration, disinfection. And then I know you can't see this, so I apologize, but this is kind of a schematic of what goes into the treatment process. So basically what happens is we pump the water from the source water at Lake Tyler. It comes into the treatment plant. I'm trying to hold up this microphone, right? Okay. It comes to the treatment plant, and then it goes through a coagulation and flocculation process, which basically is all those particles that are in the raw water that come in. It goes through a process where they then kind of bind together to form larger particles. And then through the sedimentation process, those particles then drop out in the sedimentation. We then treat it with chlorine. With free chlorine, it goes through the filters, and we have 16 filters at Golden Road. So the filtration process is more of a physical treatment process. It goes through anthracite and sand, and the particles that are larger or smaller, and meaning they didn't get bound up in the coagulation and flocculation process, those filters will attract those molecules, and they'll get filtered out during that process. So after filters, we have a certain turbidity that we have to reach, which basically is the clarity of the water. We want to have a nice, clear water. And then after that, we introduce ammonia to form chloramines, and that's our disinfectant residual that goes out into the system. So it goes through clear wells, and then it's pumped out to the distribution system. So that's Golden Road. Now, Lake Palestine is a much newer lake. It was constructed in 1971. It's owned by the Upper Neches River Municipal Water Authority. It's located on the Neches River. The drainage area is much larger at 839 square miles. The surface area, again, much larger, 25,500 acres. Average depth is about the same as Lake Tyler and Lake Tyler East, around 16 feet. And the city of Tyler has approximately the water rights to 22 billion gallons in that lake. We have a raw water pump station out of that Lake Palestine, we have 3 pumps, and each of those pumps is 10,500 gallons per minute apiece. So I spoke about how Lake Palestine is a newer lake, and I say that in particular because of both Lake Tyler and Lake Palestine at one point in time, because they're not natural lakes, they're man-made lakes, were fields, pastures, forests, covered with grass and trees. I mean, if you've been on Lake Palestine, you know you gotta make sure you avoid getting over any of those stumps in your boat, because that's bad. So I talk about that because one of the issues that we have with Lake Palestine is because there is natural organic matter, it's decaying in the water. It's because there's so much more natural organic matter in there, total organic carbon, and I'll get into that in a second after I talk about what the Lake Palestine Water Treatment Plant. It was originally constructed in 2003. It has a current treatment capacity of 30 million gallons per day. And it utilizes conventional treatment, but we also have the raw water ozonation or oxidation, and then the typical coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation, filtration, and disinfection. So again, this is another schematic of Lake Palestine. So going back to Lake Palestine being a newer lake, because of the newness of it, the fact that there is natural organic matter in the lake. I mean, there's natural organic matter in every lake, but we've seen a lot of geosmin coming from Lake Palestine. And geosmin is that it's a metabolic byproduct of algae and of certain types of bacteria. You know, after it rains, if you walk outside, you kind of smell that, you just can tell that it's raining. That's what it smells like, is the geosmin. And so we had to put in particular treatment processes at Lake Palestine to ensure that we could remove that, because it's very difficult to remove certain types of taste and odor compounds. Now, taste and odor compounds are non-harmful. They won't hurt you. It's not something that's set that we have to remove it. But understandably, it's not enjoyable to pour yourself a glass of water and it, you know, kind of has that musty smell to it. So the two processes that we use to remove that geosmin is the ozonation, and then we also feed it powder activated carbon. So ozonation, ozone is a very reactive chemical, and it will bind to just about whatever it can to try and remove it from the water. So it's very active against that organic matter that's coming into the plant. And then powdered activated carbon is basically like your charcoal filter, your filter that you have to put in your fridge so that you can get drinking water out of it. Or in your Brita filter. I don't know if people still use Brita filters, but in the Brita filter, that's pretty much what you're doing there. But this is on a much larger scale. So after it goes through ozonation and powder activated carbon, it goes through coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation again, and then we treat it with chlorine for disinfection. Goes through 8 filters at Lake Palestine, which again is that physical process. And then we introduce ammonia to more chloramines, goes to the clear wells, and then we pump it out into the distribution system. So with water production, we also operate and maintain. We don't right now, but we can. We need to 10 different drinking water wells. They have a safe yield production capacity of about 5 million gallons. So when you're looking at producing about 30 million gallons per day, the production of 5, and the amount of effort that goes into treating the different types of water that's coming out of those wells, it really, most of the time, you're not getting a great return on your investment when you're using those wells. We also have 8 ground storage facilities, and those have a total storage capacity of 11.3 million gallons, and 6 elevated storage facilities with a total of 5.8 million gallons. We also operate 4 booster pump stations within the city. So I'm going to get to that. This right here, up here, I didn't even mention that. That's our distribution system. So you can't really see it, but it is all of our distribution lines that are running through the streets, to homes, and throughout. And then this here, I apologize for the chicken scratch. I didn't get a chance to update it. But this is kind of a schematic of our distribution system. And you see in the center, we have 5 elevated storage tanks that really supply the pressure to the majority of our distribution system in the majority of homes and businesses. And then we also have the 4 boosted pressure planes, which is Jan Street, Troop Highway, Terre Haute, and UT Tyler, Charleston Park, boosted pressure zones. And the reason that we have separate pressure zones is because here in the city of Tyler, we have a good amount of relief, and we have a lot of elevation difference within the city. And whereas we would love to be able to operate the entire city off of a single pressure plane, a single overflow elevation at one of these elevated, all of these elevated storage tanks, it just isn't feasible, and we can't really provide everyone with the their desired pressure that they would like to see in their house with a single overflow elevation. Trying to make sure that, okay. The next thing I did want to address, and we'll kind of get back to that, is the water infrastructure beneath your feet. Now, this is an old picture, or it's not a picture, it's an image, but I want you to know that your sewer system, your wastewater system, is completely separate from your drinking water system. And it's a question that I get quite a lot. I mean, you'd be surprised, I mean, there are a lot of people that don't understand that, but there are a lot of safeguards in place to make sure that this is actually the case. So your sewer system, for the majority of it, is all gravity based. So you take your shower, you flush your toilet, you wash your hands, you wash your dishes, everything that goes down the drain is going into your sewer system. It's going in, out of your house and then through the collection system. Whereas the drinking water system is actually pressurized. So we have to maintain a specific pressure in that system. And so, and then I'll get into that in this next slide here.
Say, Kate.
Yes.
With that part in mind about the separateness of it, and you might have mentioned this, and I just overlooked it, but what about storm water? Does that in any way end up back in drinking water?
Stormwater, okay. Yes, the stormwater ends back up in the lake, but it is not joined. There are some municipalities that still have combined sewer and storm sewer, which EPA is trying to get rid of. That should no longer be the case, but in some older cities. Here in the city of Tyler, our storm sewer system is completely separate from our sewer system, which is why I typically end up calling it, I've just always referred to it as wastewater. So, and that's just different from the storm sewer, but good question. I didn't need to address that, that's a good question. Okay, so this is kind of like a basic idea of what we're doing. So we're pumping from the water treatment plant. We provide enough pressure that it goes up into these water towers. So then when you're at your house and you turn on your tap, you're gonna have pressure at your house. Especially, it's dependent on a lot of different factors, but how close you are to the water tower, maybe you're close to a water treatment plant. You might not be supplied pressure by your water tower. But after, it goes down the drain and it's gonna go and flow to the wastewater treatment plant, and then once it's treated by the wastewater treatment, the sewage treatment plant, it's then gonna be released back into the environment. And this is one of my favorite images because it will explain just basically what happens. And so let's kind of go back to high school physics and kinetic and potential energy, right? So we're gonna instill some kinetic energy into our water. We're gonna pump it, we're gonna put that energy in, and we're gonna store it way up high in the air so that we have potential energy. And then when you go home and you decide you want to take a bath or whatever it is, that kinetic energy, that gravity is going to be on our side and it's going to produce that pressure for you at your house. So that's basically what the water towers are for. And I say this because I know Art was like, how does it get, how does this work? And I wanted to make sure that I address that. Frequently asked questions I get on winter storm Uri. because I know that he had wanted this to be addressed as well. So why did we have a boil water notice? Was our water contaminated? Short answer, no, it was not contaminated. We were required to issue the boil water notice by the TCEQ because we lost pressure. We could not guarantee that we could provide every single connection, every single 37,000 connections and all of that with above 20 PSI at all times. We lost pressure. That's the short answer. So why did we lose pressure? We lost pressure because of a couple of different factors. First off, we had a lot of water leaks in the system. There were over 111 in that short period of time, which is more than we typically see in about a 6-month period in the city of Tyler. And so why were there so many leaks? Well, just like any material, right? Temperature is going to change how that material reacts. It's going to expand, it's going to contract. It does that with the ground as well. And so we have the ground moving, and then we also have the pipes, some of which are cast iron, which gets incredibly brittle in the cold weather. So that's why we had so many breaks. And then why did the backup generator work? Well, it was kind of like Murphy's Law. Just a few weeks previously, we had had the backup generators inspected. Unfortunately, we had a part fail. And it was the worst time for something like that to happen. But what we have to remember is that we were amongst 14 million people within the state of Texas who were out of water at some point. Out of water or in a boil water notice during that. So Tyler was not the only city that this occurred in. And anyway, I've never been prouder to be a part of a group of people as I was during this winter storm because everybody came together. The whole city and Tyler Water Utilities, and we just all worked together day and night to make things happen. And then really, last part is, I guess I haven't left too much time for questions, but if you have any questions.
Got a question. Why then do we need to boil water when we lose pressure if the water is not contaminated?
Okay, that's a good question. So where is the water? So where is the water is not contaminated? We know we based on the testing that we did afterward, it was not contaminated. When the pressure is lost and you have a leak in your system, there's potential there for introduction of something from the soil, anything. And they decided that at 20 PSI, that's the break-off point. So we can't guarantee you that your water is not, is safe when we lose pressure like that. But once we got back above that 20 PSI and well above it, and we did all of the testing that we did around the city to ensure that there wasn't any contamination, then we can say after the fact, it's a precautionary thing. That's the reason we have to do that.
Back to stormwater again.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, when it rains and stormwater runs through the drain, it takes all of the litter and trash, plastic and paper, all of that with it down the drain, and it's a lot of trash and litter. So it just seems like there's gotta be a way to clean it or clear it out somehow. Do you have some kind of method of doing that?
We don't at the drinking water plant, we can just take it from the lake and go from there. But the city of Tyler, we have a stormwater management program, and that looks at specific things like that, like how can we make sure that we're removing any, also just kind of PSAs that we put out, like don't just let your lawn clippings, those are nutrients that are getting into the water that's going, or pesticides, or don't, that kind of thing. You're right, it can lead to major issues.
If I can on that as well.
Yes.
The street sweeper, we have an active street sweeper program that they run from your stormwater fees. That's part of it, actually. The other thing is don't let.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
We have time for one more question? Yes, please.
Why is our beautiful historic water tower so ugly?
No wonder
Which one?
The one downtown, it's kind of an eyesore.
The downtown one?
Now, why has it never been painted?
Well, it's all concrete, it's concrete pedestal, and everything that we spend money on comes from the water rates that you all pay. And I just don't believe that at any point in time that has been priority one, is painting that water tower. I don't know that it was ever meant to be painted.
What about South Glenwood?
South Glenwood, and separation of the road, that one, that's not, just so you know, that's not an active water tower. That is a very old water tower, and we do need to demolish that, but again, it takes money.
Yeah, yeah.
It's on our list, I promise.
So, Bill?
Who owns Bellwood now? Does the city own Bellwood?
Yes,
Does
yes.
it use it for anything like that?
No, we don't use it for any, we use it for some raw water, we use it for irrigation. I think Cascade uses it for irrigation. Right now, that's it. At one point, Kelly Springfield was using it as well.
Would you draw one of these for us, and I know the last four numbers?
Diane, can I say something real quick?
After she announces the four numbers.
I know we're anxious.
Yes.
5725.
Well, thank you, Kate. Alright, okay.
Your presentation makes me very proud to live in Tyler. We all suffered, but we came back fast. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Manager, and the water folks. I saw those guys out in the cold. I couldn't imagine standing in 3 or 4 feet of water, whatever they were in those temperatures, knocking themselves out so that we could restore our services. It was terrific. Thank you. Thank
All right, a couple of quick announcements for us to wrap up. Dalton snuck in on me, he has a sign-up sheet for the CAD community homes on the 8th, if you're interested in signing up. Did you get it going around? Okay, it's going around, so make sure that you sign up on it. I put this in the bulletin, but I also wanted to thank Michael Hurley and Kathy White for all of their efforts on our youth services programs in the last couple of months. Our WIWA virtual event took place over the weekend, and there was lots of changes. Even 3 days before, they decided to go from one server to a different server, so I appreciate all of the things that Michael and Kathy had to deal with all the changes on that. We were scheduled to have a 4-way test speech contest here on May 10th. The school is just too crazy for their schedule, so we're not going to be having it on May 10th. But Kathy's already working on some plans to put it together in the fall, so that we would move forward with it at that time. So that leaves us a vacancy on May 10th. I reached out to our city leaders and said, hey, Don, hey, Ed, either one of you want to come speak? And Don's playing golf. For charity, he's on the board of directors. Sorry, Don, I didn't feel that. And Ed's out of town. So we are looking for a program for May 10th if you have any ideas. I'd like to thank our guests again, Ashley Bowman, who submitted her application, Tina Jimenez, who came with Kelly, and Kate as well. Thank you for being here. Please, Kate, I know you just spoke to us today. We're welcome to come back and learn a little bit more about Rotary if you'd like to. Our next meeting is, the speaker is Dr. Marty Crawford from Tyler ISD. Are there any other announcements before we wrap up for the day? All right, seeing none, we will adjourn with the 4-way test. And Michael, how do you mind if I call on you to do that?
Sure. Together, a 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it true? Second,
is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth,
will it be beneficial to all all concerned.